Welcome back. Artists, event planners and performers laid bare their plight on Wednesday night during the #LightSARed protest. The initiative by the LightSARed movement is aimed at getting the government to extend COVID-19 relief funding for the industry until artists, event organizers and restaurants are able to resume work. To talk to us more about the impact of COVID-19 on the entertainment and events industry, we joined now via Skype by Dean Carlson. He's the founder of BrainFarm. Good afternoon to you, Dean. Thank you so much for joining us here on the SABC News channel.
Paleza, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thank you indeed for...
I think...
Yeah. All right.
Sorry, no, you were asking about the impact of COVID and the lockdown on the industry, and it's really disrupted not just our business but the industry as a whole. It's really brought the industry to a standstill. I mean, I think we had an build up for 2020, including 2 Guinness World Record attempts that we were planning to take on. And as a result of lockdown and as a result of COVID, all of these have been put on hold or either postponed or cancelled. So it really has been very severe on the industry as a whole.
So are we able to sort of put the numbers or perhaps to quantify the loss that the industry has suffered? Because the reality is, when you're talking about the entertainment industry, I believe it's quite broad, from the people who clean these production houses to the security officers to the production crews behind these entertainers themselves.
I think I'm definitely not an expert, or perhaps not the right person to ask in terms of the quantifying the overall impact on the industry. But I think that we, as a company, we specialize in speakers and creating speaker events, bringing speakers in to come and speak at conferences. And we've been very fortunate in that we have still been able to operate to an extent. But the challenge is, for a lot of the people, the lighting designers or the guys who do the staging and production behind the scenes, those guys are not as fortunate because they rely very heavily on the ability to engage in a live event environment. So, just the amounts of companies that I've been hearing of big industry giants who have been going out of business as a result of the impact on. It's terrifying. It's a very scary thing. Huh?
Yeah, it certainly is. But what alternatives are you looking at, perhaps, to try and keep afloat during the lockdown? Is there anything else that can be done? As you say that mostly people that are affected are your behind-the-scene crews. Is there anything that can be done during these times to sort of try to keep them alive, to keep everything afloat?
I think absolutely. I mean, I think that the big thing is, if you look at when you go through difficult times, or we go through challenging times, there's a tendency to kind of turn inwards and to kind of try and focus on ourselves and focus on our own growth and survival. And to grow at all expense. And I think that the other thing in nature that exemplifies some of that behavior is a cancer cell that kind of just grows for itself and not consider those around them. And I think it's more important than ever that we remain cognizant of that, and that we remember that hard times don't create people who are tough and treat people in position of weakness unfairly. It merely reveals those tendencies. So I think that it's more important than ever to help those people that we know of that are in tough positions, to try and bring them into platforms that we are working on, that we're still able to keep the industry going and use suppliers wherever possible, as opposed to kind of turning inwards and just. So absolutely, it's essential, and I think it's just having a broader mindset and understanding that we need to treat the people that we've been relying on in our industry in the way that we would like to be treated if we were in a similar position. I think it's really that simple.
But what lessons have been drawn from the pandemic itself? What do you think needs to happen going forward? Because half the time you get complaints that the entertainment industry, those that are in this industry sort of operate in silos. So do you not see a need of collaboration perhaps in the coming years in terms of content, in terms of connectivity, in terms of sponsorships and so on?
Absolutely, there's no doubt. I mean, I think that now more than ever, collaboration is essential. I mean, and we've seen it in our business where historically we would put together these massive productions where we would bring in speakers from around the world and get sponsors involved, etc. And we basically have just shifted that to an online environment, where we last week had a speaker from Boston, Massachusetts, dial in to one of our events. Earlier this week, we had Sean Thompson, the South African world champ surfer, who's been based in California, host a session for us, a virtual session for us. We had from around the world or participating in this event from places like India, Dublin, New York, San Francisco, etc. And nobody had to get on a plane to get there. But at the same time, as much as we have the ability, as much as technology is enabling us to be able to put these events together, no one individual can do all of this by themselves. So you need technology partners, you need design partners, you need media partners, you need all of these guys to assist you and make come alive. And I think now more than ever, if you don't have those relationships in place, it's that whole story of the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. But if you didn't plant a tree 20 years ago, then start planting trees now, because the reality is that nobody can survive during these times by themselves. So if you don't have strong relationships with people in your industry that are going to help you to adapt and relevant, then you have to foster those relationships now more than ever.
Yeah, so a lot of introspection and self-correcting will have to happen going forward. Just very quickly, talk to us about the concept of a BrainFarm masterclass. How did that come about?
Thank you. Yeah, so it's been an interesting journey for us, because it started off with us wanting to make a difference, use the relationships that we've built up with international speakers and artists from around the world to put those relationships to good use by creating a platform. And in that process of working on that platform, we were exposed to a lot of technology partners and realized that there was probably an opportunity for us to plug some of our live speakers into create live events for our speakers on specific topics relating to COVID, on how during the times that we're in, we're going to need to renegotiate leases, we're going to need to renegotiate with suppliers, etc. So we went and reached out to Dr. Craig Venter, who was Nelson Mandela's negotiation advisor. And he is one of the most incredible people when it comes to negotiation. He's been united for his contribution to negotiation. And we asked him if he would come and teach a masterclass on showing people how to negotiate, teaching people how to negotiate during these times. And he graciously agreed to do a 3-hour session for us. Last week we had Sean Thompson on, who hosted a session for us on how to basically how to ride the next wave when you've been wiped out during times of challenge. How do you basically reinvent yourself and pick yourself up and keep going? And all of the speakers we've been bringing onto this platform have incredible relevance to the times that we're in. So the week before, we had Dr. Srini Pillai from Boston, Massachusetts, who is a Harvard psychiatrist, specializes in stress and anxiety, teaching people how to deal with the situation that they're in at the moment in terms of staying on top of the conversations taking place in our own heads. So it's been an incredible experience to see this platform come to life in a time where we've been inundated with, everybody's been inundated with the offer of free webinars. And on any given day, we all get invited into so many free webinars. And we decided to go the other way by creating really unique content, finding speakers from around the world who can deliver a real value and do it at a price point that's really affordable. And the only reason we've been able to do this is because of the generous support of not just the speakers that we've been building up, we've built relationships with over the last decade and a half. But in addition to that, the partners, technology partners, media partners, people that have supported us and enabled us to be able to create a platform like this that can create massive value in people's lives and assist people in navigating their way through these challenging times.
I'll tell you what, incredible job that you're doing there. We thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on this. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you so much, Beleza. Thanks for the opportunity.
Well, there you have it. Dean Carlson is the founder of BrainFarm, talking to us about the plight of artists and event organizers in light of COVID-19. Let's take a look at some sport.